Hello everyone, we are back. It is September 4th, 1936, and the war is a long ways off. So this episode I'm going to go into detail on some things that I glossed over in the earlier episodes while I was kind of describing what I was doing with my orders of battles, my unit production, and my research. So let me start off on the main screen here. We have our different map modes down here. You're going to want to stay on political 99% of the time. We have terrain, which is pretty useless. Simplified terrain, which you'll go into fairly often just to kind of check out what kind of terrain your units are moving into. Weather is important and it has an effect on combat, but I've played entire games without ever looking at it. So it's really up to you how detailed you want to get and how much manpower you want to conserve and how micromanagey you want to be. Intel map mode, not super useful. Revolt risk can be useful later once you take over provinces. Basically, areas where there will be a revolt risk turn up red. You want to put units there to suppress the revolts before they happen. Diplomatic is important for some countries, but we're Germany, so we hate everyone. Region, not useful at all. Supply map mode is useful, but not anytime soon. That's going to be once we start invading places. We're going to want to look at that every once in a while to see where supply problems are coming from. As you can see, green areas have lots of supplies, and it also will tell us how supplies are moving. So these are our convoys up here. Red are going out, green are coming in, I believe. Doesn't really matter. You can use those to bomb supply routes and things like that, but again, it's not super useful, but something you'll want to check out every once in a while. Infrastructure is great, again, every once in a while, because as we get into this area over here, there's going to be lots of land that has terrible infrastructure. We're going to want to avoid that, or go around it, or basically just be aware that our supplies are going to get caught up trying to pass through those tiles. Victory point map mode, very important. In order to win wars in Hearts of Iron, you need to occupy victory points. If we look at Poland here, we can see they have a surrender progress of 0. We need to occupy 70% of their victory points in order to conquer them. I can declare war on Poland. I don't know when that happened. That's very interesting. I'm gonna have to look around. Anyway, so 70% of the victory points. If we highlight here, for example, Danzig is worth 2 points. Their capital's worth 4. So they have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14. So 70% is roughly like 8 or so of those 14. Maybe 10. So we need to take 4 victory points, essentially, including their capital. So we're obviously going to go for these 3 here, or 4 here rather, plus their capital. So you always want to look at victory point map mode in order to know where to move your units. For example, if I'm invading the Netherlands, all of these provinces don't mean anything other than that the enemy can no longer go there. I basically just need their capital. Maybe Rotterdam or Den Haag. You don't want to waste movement is the point I'm trying to make. Especially when you get to Russia, which has 1 billion victory points. All these little guys here. You know, if you make a strong push and you wind up in this area, what are you doing there? You're not accomplishing anything. Unless you're trying to pincer around to Moscow, but I mean, at some point you're wasting fuel, you're wasting resources, and you're leaving yourself overextended. So you always want to be careful. That also comes into play if you're playing as England. It's very easy to conquer Italy in about a day by just landing in all of their coastal victory points. It's real cheesy, but it works. So if you're England, you load up a bunch of units on transports and you just naval land at all their victory points, conquer them quickly. Italy surrenders instantly. It's been the bane of many multiplayer games for us. Italy is impossible to defend. So, we have our theater map mode, which is not super useful unless you are using the AI control of your theaters, which I do not recommend. There's no fun in that. Air power map mode. These units, or circles rather, show what areas our units can cover. These units here at the center of this circle have an effective range of this circle. That's good to know. This will also show bombings when they happen, so useful once war starts. Naval map mode. I don't have much of a navy, so this isn't doing much. Those are convoys going out. There's not a lot here because I don't have much of a navy. Strength will just show you at a glance where you're strongest. So say we have a big front over here and we want to real quick see where our strongest point is. You click this and it'll show us. Or if you want to shore up a weak point in your line, oh, this is a lighter shade of green, I want to move more units there. I don't use that, but it seems useful. Or just for example here, oh, I can see I don't have any units in this province here right away at a glance. I don't have any units there because that's a marsh. That's intentional, and I don't want to suffer attrition. So, finally, resources. The resource map mode is okay, I guess, if you're trying to locate a specific item. Oh, I'm out of steel, and I'm conquering Czechoslovakia. I want all these steel provinces. That's great, but you're going to conquer them anyway and get those, so there's no real point. I guess if you're invading the Soviet Union and you want to cut off their oil supplies, oh, I want to steal this from them so they can't use it. I'm going to send troops there to occupy it. Sure, that's a valid strategy, but at some point you're just going for the victory points anyway, so why bother? Just my opinion. Again. Can't believe I can invade Poland. I'm literally at a loss. It's September 1936 and I can invade Poland. The production screen. So this lists all your supplies. These just correspond to up here. You never really need to look at this. You're never going to build nukes in a normal game, so don't worry about it. Your convoys. I don't have much of a navy, so I don't have a lot of trade. I'm not worried too much about convoys. Normally I'd say build a bunch of convoys, but all of my supplies are going to be transferred by land. You can manually create convoys here, but most of the time you should just automate it. There's no point. Unless you're micromanaging really heavily, but where's the fun in that? We're trying to make this game fun. These little units, my 62 here, correspond to this button here. Convoys, you can build them. They take forever. A third of a year for one convoy. And then escorts correspond to this button up here. You can build these. These take even longer. These take 2/3 of a year. They're also not super cheap, being 4 and 2 respectively. As soon as war starts, all my convoys are going to get sunk and all my trade's going to end, but I'm just not worried about it. It's not something I'm going to really care about. You can also build industrial capacity here, anti-aircraft guns, and rocket test sites. IC is good to build on occasion for some units, or for some nations rather. But I always recommend going to the province menu and clicking down here to build those things, because then you won't have to deploy it. It'll build right here. And you can also queue up as many as you want and they'll just build, which I highly recommend. But we're gonna cancel all those. Alright. Covered all that. On the politics menu in the first episode, I changed these guys around. I'd like to point out that these ministers will change for each country. And if you're the United States, an election will happen and you'll get new ministers. I usually check once a year or so to see if new ministers have shown up. And you can look in the text files and see exactly when new guys will show up. But I don't really get into games that much where that's something I want to do. That's just too, again, too micromanagey. I don't want to know. I'll just check it every once in a while. I pick the best ones at the start, so we don't really have to. I don't want to have to worry about it anymore. So I don't. All right, our intelligence screen. The United Kingdom's threat is still being raised pretty heavily. That's might have something to do with our Polish situation. You can see here, England is now Romania's highest threat, which is great. Or England is Romania's highest threat, rather. So let's hope that keeps up. And now I'm just going to look around, because we were playing at speed 5 for a while. And, you know, you miss things. I never play on speed 5 if I'm playing by myself. I did that mostly for the sake of this review, to speed things along. But you do miss things. I recommend playing at speed 3 or 4 at most. And then when you get into war, I would recommend going even slower. I can clear war in Lithuania. Man, this is very strange. But I'm okay with it, but unfortunately, I'm not ready for war. I don't have the units for war. So I'm going to unpause, and we're going to get moving here. I'd also like to point out, you can click on any of these flags here and just bring up the nation, so you can see, oh, who's close to aligning with me, or who, you know, maybe, oh, the USA is aligning to them, maybe I should influence them to pull them away. I'm not going to do any of that. We're going to have a real natural war, I think, or historical war. But you can do things like that. You know, if you want to keep... If you're the United States, you want to keep Japan out of the Axis, you want to influence them, try to do a coup. There's ways to do all of those things. However, I find they only have limited effectiveness. I have tech espionage set. Like I said, I'm trying to steal some Navy techs maybe, get them for free. Lost a spy in the United Kingdom, but that's okay. Now this is the theater screen. This is where you set your AI controls. Again, for the umpteenth time, I don't like those, but it's here if you want to use it. But there's no fun in that, so do not do that. That's a bad way to learn Hoi. Alright, so now I'm going to build some battle plans real quick. That's located over here by your map. You can add some plans. We'll just call it the Reddit plan, because why not? Now we can use any of these tools here. Apparently in Hoi 4 this is going to be your primary method of engaging the enemy, which I'm interested in. I don't know if it's going to work out, but hopefully it's cool. If not, then, you know, there's always Hoi 3. So I'm going to draw some lines to the victory points, and I'm going to actually just label all the victory points with little explosions. That way I don't forget. I don't forget where I want to go, because it's easy in the heat of battle to forget. So these units are going to come across, and they're going to loop up towards Moscow. These units are going to hold here, while these units push across. I could use these to flank, but I found it's better to wait and let these guys dash themselves against these units in defensive positions. Again, just my strategy. We're going to loop down here, loop up here, and then after that they're going to push through to Warsaw. Very simple battle plan, but there's some important things here. You always want to get a pincer action going. You want to encircle troops, which I will do, because what's going to happen is these units are going to push through and cut off these units. These units are going to push through and cut off these units. And then these guys are going to be the occupying force and just push through directly as far as I can go. So yeah, real simple plan. That's all you need though. It's Poland. This isn't Russia. Remember, we're just trying to capture victory points. So same thing over here. What we're going to do is these units are going to push around behind here. And then push on to here. While these guys hold. But they're gonna attack and hold these units up while these units circle around, pincer them in. Then, you know, we win. These aren't difficult battles. I don't really need a battle plan. I just kind of want to show you some limited uses of this. You have all kinds of little icons. Oh, I want infantry here, but you don't really need those. I mean, you can remind yourself to bomb. I guess if you wanted to get real tricky, you could go to, I don't know, resource map mode. Say, oh, they have, you know, a lot of IC here. I want to remember to bomb it, so throw a plane down. I don't find that stuff particularly useful, but it's all here. And then those will stay there as you play the game, or you can close them, because, I mean, let's face it, those look pretty dumb. And it's pretty easy to conquer Poland. Remember, always go through. We want to make sure we're not wasting industrial capacity at any time. Actually, while I'm here, let me show you up here. We have our strategic resources. They give you different bonuses. They're done through... Whoa. Okay. A lot of text just went off here. So, let's look here. Inefficient research. Assault, concentration, and special forces. So we're going to get rid of those. Because we don't want inefficient resources. Researches, rather. Now we're going to go in. Remember, we can't research anything that has a 38 until it gets to at least 37. I could research some subtext. I can't bring myself to do it. I'd rather have other things. And when 1937 hits, I'm going to have a ton of things to research. So again, we're just going to put more points into officers. Because I have 86 diplomatic influence, 32 spies, which are plenty, and I'm building half a spy a day, which is pretty gross. And we're good to go again. We're going to bump the speed up to 4. Get rid of our battle plans again, because as I said, they're pretty dumb. And we're going to see how close some of our people are to joining. Italy is still pretty far. Italy, getting there, but still not quite. I'm real tempted to declare war, but Poland would probably wipe the floor with me right now because I have a bunch of terrible units. The people on Reddit just want to see combat so bad, it's hard for me to resist, but that would be very dumb. And September 24th, we have some units coming off, and then late October, then November. Alright, while I'm here, let's look at some of our stats. I wasn't going to show this for a while because they're going to be irrelevant until combat starts. Units coming off. There we go. So we have 42-ish IC to deal with. Let's build some units again. I could build some light armor, but I want to wait for my medium armor to be ready. I don't want to waste a ton of armor. So we're going to build some infantry. Which we already have some coming, but we'll build some engineer divisions for crossing rivers. Alright, so let's look at our stats. We have strength. That's number of men. That's not a value. That's just how many guys are in this division. Ignore all this. I mean, you can look at that, but it's not going to matter. Organization is a number value that represents, it's like morale in EU4. You want that to be higher, it will go down. Like if I have say a militia unit in it, that goes down. If I have a Waffen SS, it goes up. So better units usually have better organization. We could build some neat Waffen motorized combination brigades just to run around and put down rebellions, but we'll save that for later. So let's look. The most important thing on here, believe it or not, is combat width. So you can have a maximum of, I believe it's 10, it's either 9 or 10 combat width in one fight from each flank. So, let's say I attack with all three of these units from that province to Palencia. This unit has combat width of 3. This unit has combat width of 3. This unit has combat width of 3. You know, it's 10 per battle. So if I attack with all three of these units, they will all attack. So all of their strength will be counted in this battle. But now let's say I have this unit here. This unit of 2 light armor, motorized, and engineer has a combat width of 5. So when he attacks over here, he'll be fine. But if I had all of these units on this province, we would have a combined combat width of 14. So let's say I move him up, which let's just do for the sake of this. We have all these units to deploy, but we're not going to do that quite yet. Okay. So now, together, these have a combat width of 14. If I attack with all of these, this tank will not participate in the fight. Or however it's calculated. One of these units will not participate in the fight. It depends on what order I order them to attack in. I'm not sure about the priority on hover clicking. I think it might be top to bottom, but I'm not sure, because you don't do that because it's dumb. You don't want to attack with everything. But what you could do is attack, say, with 2 of these, and then when they get tired, attack with the other 2 after they get done. And then what you're doing is you're rotating your fighting so that there's always fresh troops on the front. Because by the time the second battle's done, the first battle's organization will regain, and they'll be able to attack again. And that's how you wear down units over time. So, there's a strategy involved where, do you want these stronger units with a high combat width, or do you want multiple units with a lower combat width, or some combination thereof? That all comes down to preference, in my opinion. I prefer smaller units. Some people might prefer big old tank divisions that you can only attack one at a time. You're going to have to figure out what works for you. Now, the caveat is, again, let's say I attack with all 3 of these units that add up to 9 combat width here. And then I bring in an adjacent unit for support. Up to 5 combat width from any adjacent province will be counted. So this is 3 again, it would be counted. If I had this unit back down here, which let's send them. Now I attack across the border here, from here to here. Then I attack the same province with this unit and with this unit. All of their combat width, all of their strength would be counted, because each one of the adjacent provinces are each under 5, and this one's under 10. That's how you want to fight. You don't want to do this and just right-click and hope things work out. So that is my very basic combat tutorial. I'm going to deploy some of these troops real quick. They're all artillery brigades. And then we're going to go into the production menu and assign another production run, and I'm going to explain all the numbers on that screen, and then we'll be done for this session. For Remember, I'm just shift clicking and hover or drag clicking as needed. Do 3 units here, so he'll get 1. Remember, these units are going to be on the defensive. So artillery, oh, I can't deploy there. Right, I'm sorry. You can't deploy because they're not contiguous with your border. So that's something to be careful about. I usually bring those troops over on transports, but I did not start this game with any transports. So we're just deploying willy-nilly. Remember, these are our base units. I could add other units to these, but it doesn't hurt to just have artillery and infantry divisions. They're pretty tough against soft targets, such as infantry, which is what most of what I'm fighting is going to be. Okay, so production. I have the 49. So, combat width, the most important thing. Then you have soft attack. This is how many attacks this brigade can make against soft targets. Soft targets are your infantry. They're men, they're soldiers. Hard attack, same thing, but against tanks. Armored cars, anything with armor. Piercing attack, this is also very important. If a unit's piercing attack is not better than the armor value of the unit it's attacking, it will do half damage. It basically makes it useless. So, I have armor stat here. A light armor has 4 armor. Light armored tank has 4 armor value. An infantry unit cannot pierce it. Add an engineer, still can't pierce it. Add an artillery, still can't pierce it. You need anti-tank, brings it up to 7. Or you need another light armor. Light armor can pierce light armor. So you need to remember what you're attacking. Very important to know what you're attacking with and who you are attacking. Alright. Air attack, if you have anti-air, it gets some air attack. I don't use anti-aircraft units. You can, I just don't find it useful. Armor, I already described. Defensiveness and toughness are your defensive values, obviously. But defensiveness covers if your unit is being attacked. Toughness is how defensive they are while attacking. If that doesn't make sense, let me know. Basically, units that are tough, like Marines, lose less casualties when they're attacking. Units that are defensive, such as a garrison? I guess garrisons have other bonuses. But, units that are defensive are better while being attacked. Air defense covers your defensiveness while being bombed. Not much you can do about that. I mean, you could throw in anti-aircraft, but I just like to move fast enough where the planes don't matter. I'm capturing victory points. Alright. Kilometers per hour, just how fast they move. A unit will move as fast as its slowest unit. So light armor moves 9, I add an infantry, the whole unit can only move 4 because an infantry can only move 4. Common sense, the men can't walk faster than the tanks. Alright, suppression, very important. Suppression will reduce revolt risk, essentially. Units with a higher suppression stat make rebellions in areas around them less likely. So I have a military police, has a suppression of 3, compared to an infantry, which has a suppression of 1, and a tank, which has a suppression of 0. The old adage, you need boots on the ground, applies to World War II as well. You need men to hold land. You can't just move tanks in, because tanks can't go into buildings and put down revolts and, you know, murder the populace. They can only shoot stuff. Alright, supply consumption. That is, the amount of supplies this brigade will consume daily. Obviously, units with higher supplies cost more supplies. So, anti-aircraft will shoot that way up. Tank destroyers shoot that way up. A motorized will shoot it way up. Common infantry doesn't use all that much. Alright, finally fuel. Units that use fuel use fuel, to put it stupidly. Obviously, if something's a vehicle, it needs fuel. Things like artillery, it's not self-propelled, so it doesn't need fuel. Self-propelled artillery will need fuel. Motorized anti-aircraft needs fuel. Tanks need fuel, etc. Alright, down here, we have our combined arms bonus. So, you need the brown unit. So you need one of these guys. It's all color coordinated. If you don't have one of those, it doesn't do anything. So I have a blue and a green. It doesn't give me a bonus. I have a brown, a green, a blue, a red. I get my 15%. Combined arms bonus is great. I swear by it. I always try to have at least 10% in custom brigades, or divisions rather. I recommend trying to get to 15 if you can. For example, light armor, motorized, self-propelled artillery if you have it in an armored car. Obviously, I wouldn't use artillery in this situation because it reduces my speed, but once you get self-propelled artillery, you can do that because of the red icon. Try to get 15, get 10 at least, in my opinion, every time. I went over serial, I went over parallel. As reserves, makes them as reserves as we discussed. And that's it. Those are your hoist stats. They're less complicated than it seems. These are all indicated up here for each unit in a row and column format. It's really easy, even though it's really overwhelming because there's a lot of numbers here. But in reality, it's not that hard. Alright, so we're going to build some units. We're going to do 2 infantry, an engineer, and an anti-tank. It's going to be a real tough unit. Against tanks. It's going to be very, very strong against tanks, but we're not going to build too many because they're very expensive. We're going to build 4. That leaves us 15 IC left over. So what we're going to do is we will build another light armor. I don't build a ton of light armor, but it's good to have a couple. Alright, and again, we're losing a little bit of supplies, but that is always okay. We have till October 30th until we get some more units. We're going to put those armored cars over here with these guys to make them a little more defensive. Alright, and that's it. So, not a lot happened this session. A lot of explaining menus, but that's Hearts of Iron. We'll be back next time, and we're going to get to 1937. I guarantee it.